Всем добрый день, с вами Анатолий и Ольга. Мы занимаемся развитием Standoff Bug Bounty, и сегодня мы поговорим с ребятами, которые участвовали в ивенте. Ивент называется Standoff Hacks, он проходил несколько дней назад.
Hello, Anatoly and Olga with you. We're going to speak about Standoff Hacks, and during this event we have called 30 best hackers for our platform, for Russian market, from the competitors' platform. We called a couple of people.
Посмотреть на безопасность двух
We
сервисов.
wanted to look at the safety of two services,
ВК и Wild.
VK services and Wildberries.
То есть сайты, сервера, которые до этого...
They brought sites and servers which nobody have researched. Practically, this was the Greenfield project. In the course of 2 weeks, they've been submitting vulnerabilities. The companies were paying, and upon the results of the event, we paid approximately 2.5 million rubles in the course of 2 weeks. And right now, we have participants, cool participants, Vladimir and Artyom. They will introduce themselves. They will tell us better about themselves than I will do that. Hello, Toля.
Привет, Артем.
Hello, everybody. Artyom. Hi. My name is Vladimir. And I'm working 10 years in cybersecurity, in bug bounty. I do the same amount of years, and I was really happy when I was invited to participate in this event on this platform. What I do vulnerability scanning professionally. I do it in the last 3 years in my company. What's the name of the company? It's called Confactory Company. It's a set of scanners which analyze security of the perimeter of our clients. Bug bounty is a story when in a limited scope you search for bugs. For a certain period of time, our scope is much wider than a regular program, but it's same bug bounty, bug search. Vulnerabilities are being discovered. Yeah, we'll ask you about that a little bit later. Artyom? Yes, my name is Artyom. I work in info security less than 10 years. Active hunting, I've started in 2019, only almost 4 years. Previously, I had a profile on HackerOne since 2015. I did know something about bug bounty. I've got registered there. And I thought, okay, let's be there. Maybe someday I will get something out of them. What else should I tell you about myself?
Нет, в 19 году начал.
So you started doing this in 2019. Was it due pandemics? No, in the end of 2019 I've started. In the 2020 March, there was pandemics.
Посидеть дома побакхантить.
So you've been sitting at home and bug hunting. Yes, it did happen that during the quarantine, I was at the Bali island. And I had a lot of more interesting things than bug hunting. Are you bug hunting full-time? Not the full-time. Because I didn't select this path. Maybe a little bit later. But right now, my conscience allows me to do the back hunting. So you work in security? Yeah, I work as application security engineer. Previously, I've been working in this position, and recent years, I've been application security researcher. It's on the basis of a contract that I work with the guys.
Круто.
Cool.
Расскажите пару слов.
Can you tell me a couple of words about how
Можно
you like this hacking? Tell us honestly.
не показное интервью, то есть если вам...
It's not a show-off interview.
Просто как...
If you like something or don't like something, just speak as it is. Sincerely, I really liked it. It was an offline event in Bug Bounty. This is a separate event which allows you to communicate with offline, with other bug hunters, meet them in real life, those you don't know. And this is wonderful that you do something like that. There were about 30 offline people when they come to such meeting. It's a pretty interesting thing. I love the music. So this is the most important thing that stayed in my head. It's a hacker-related music. When you're sitting and research, something should wake you up in the process. So in order for you to continue doing this, so it's some kind of a slow techno, which allows you to do that. I really loved it.
Круто.
Ну, много было
Cool.
веселых
And there was a lot of fun stories. There was a poster
Да.
that you have found from somewhere.
Это был ВК.
Yeah, one of our clients, it was Pool FK.
Работал до недавно.
AFK until recently had Alexei Grishin working there, and we made due to the fact that he was going to leave the company, we made a poster. I don't remember the name of the poster, where there was a girl with the finger and says "Don't speak," and we have photoshopped the face of Alexei, and we have asked all the hackers to sign as a sign of the fact that everybody have signed NDA and nobody will tell anybody what happened during the event. Yeah, we did make this fun poster. Artyom,
Приехал,
for you as an event,
живет в Москве, правильно?
if Vladimir lives in Moscow,
Я приехал с Анапы, сейчас живу.
Artyom, I came from Anapa. I live in Anapa right now.
У нас сейчас аэропорты не работают, пришлось добираться на...
Airport doesn't work, so I had to take a train. But I was really happy that I visited. In these 40 hours in the train, they,
Лайфхакинг-ивент туда.
I came to a first in Russia live hacking event. It was really cool from the point of view of the fact that I met
Ребятами, которых я там уже давно знал.
people that I knew for quite a while in online meetings. It was interesting to see them offline. For me,
Самый
it is the most important advantage plus
позвали на этот оффлайн.
of coming there to this offline event.
Все остальное тоже было круто, организация.
Everything else was very cool. Organization was on the highest level. I don't know. The scope,
Вендор, ВК, я там, да,
vendor, VK. I
взаимодействовал.
friending quite a few years with them. I've been searching for bugs for them.
Потому что
I
это
wanted to search for bugs in Wildberries because it was a very good scope. Interesting one.
ну, такой, скажем так, захватывающий на 2 недели.
Let's say captivating for 2 weeks. It was really cool.
Собственно, я как понимаю, весь хак
Well, honestly, as I understand the hack is that you search bugs as fast as possible and be the first one. So how are you able to find bugs and be the first one finding them? Well, during the bug bounty, and how were you able to do it during hacks?
Сложно давать какие-то
It's hard to give any advice, especially to people who will look at who is amongst top 30 hackers in Russia.
советы, а просто...
I will not give any advices.
Я не знаю, как быть первым.
I
Наверное,
don't know how to be the first one. I think, first of all, you should concentrate on those bugs that you know more about. Because every bug hunter out of 30 of us has their own mindset.
какие-то свои тактики.
We have our own tactics of discovering. Some people discover better
Кто-то хорошо просто...
when they dive into the application. Somebody scan the perimeter and do it faster. Yeah.
Ну, то есть у всех тактики
Well,
разные. Плюс
everybody have different tactics. Plus, everybody search for different bugs.
кто-то в другом.
Some are better in one thing, others are better in other thing. This is very good for companies, I think, especially for VK and VBR that have called 30 hackers, which have screened everything, and each one of them is good in something of their own. Also, would like to add, hacker activity is a creativity, and every person has their own setup for the analyzing of a certain site and search for specific errors they want to look for.
здесь, ну, для меня,
So,
по крайней мере,
about how to do it faster, at least for me, the recipe works in the following. You just sit down, disconnect for anything,
приложение,
you open your application,
кидаешь проксю, настраиваешь правильно там все
put a proxy, put all the headers,
Вот, обязательно, ну,
slow techno music, and I love to test.
бакхантеры знают, и это
All bug hunters know this, and this is the I love IDOR. This is the often bug. When from one account you can do actions in another account,
быстро
but you should receive access to the account as fast as possible and start analyzing it.
да, быстро
That's it.
кликаешь.
And move on, click, 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 and rotate the wheel. Also, would like to add about the speed. The speed is very important, but I don't think that there is another factor how deeply you will dive into the application.
Можно глубоко, если у тебя main...
If your mindset is to dive deeply into the application, then you can find such bugs which nobody else will find during this event. And then you have to write reports ASAP. How much time does it take to write a report? I don't know. Usually I had bugs. Come here, put this token here. They were simple bugs. That's why it took very little time. Some do the screencasts on this, but I find simple ones. So you have the pain of writing reports. But if triage understands them, yes, half of the success of the report is how you properly will write it and how the person will be able to reproduce the vulnerability. The recent story, I'll tell you about it. During the event, in the final day, I had about 5 hours. Yeah, 5 hours, approximately 5 hours, to come to the location, open notebook, receive the information, find the scope, find the bugs, and deliver them. So I was able to submit 2 vulnerabilities during this period of time in new functionality. And most of the time, report took, because this is the moment when all the 30 guys are sitting there and they're doing the same thing, and you have to be the first one. Why am I saying that? Well, because since the first time I wasn't able to do that because I was worrying, I wasn't able to send a report that will be reproduced by a human being. He wasn't able to do that. Well, after the event, next day, I was trying to reproduce the sequence of actions, and I wasn't able to do that. Then I had to search. And after the end of the event, Monday night, I came back and I was sitting about 3-4 hours trying to reproduce the same vulnerability that I've had in the beginning, but I forgot how did it happen. So, and the funniest thing, I was able to do that, finally. And the guy said that it's critical. So we'll see what's going to be the end of the story. And after the event, during the event, I made a mistake. I couldn't write the proper report. So that was the story. I hope you will get good money for this. I hope so too. Well, Ola have asked me, how fast can you find those bugs? But what is interesting for me, how can you find cool bugs which give big impact? How can you approach it in the best way, better to dive into the application and understand the business logic, or maybe sit at the GitHub and search for certain keys that were forgotten and were not removed from there, or maybe you have your own ideas. These are mine. These 2 things which I would do if I would have an objective to find the most impactful in a big scope. I would take one complicated application, I would sit down, and I would dive into it to the end, with the head, and try to look, some keys at GitHub. What would you do in this case? Thanks for asking this question. Well, I do have 2 topics which can be mentioned. The first one is a technical topic, to click as maximum functionality as possible. Most of the buttons, the pathways of the user find in the application to go to the functionality that nobody have looked previously. It's the one story. Second story is the impact. The bug is being assessed by what impact it can give to the company. And from this point of view, vulnerability search should come from the logic of what is the most critical thing for this application, which incidents are the more critical ones, like you're saying positive, inadmissible events, as you call them. Yeah, I will do the following model. These are 2 different models of vulnerability search. The first one is complicated, the second one is impact related, but they are not always aligned. So you can move in different directions and you can find different things. Yes. Artyom, what about you? Vova have properly noted. I would like to say the same thing, but generally speaking, people should understand that their bug is about how the company evaluates this bug. If they are not thinking about the success, well, they will directly tell you. But if there are super specific cases for some applications, for example, like online games, and for example, the company which makes online games, for them it is very important to have skins because this is something they sell. And if you have found vulnerability which allows you to accept any skin for free of charge, then roughly speaking, this is a very high-level bug for this company. Even though it's a very simple EDOR, it can be very specific. That's what I wanted to say. It is very difficult to evaluate on the basis of some classical methods of assessment of criticality. Did you have a situation when, I don't know, Many
Такая история бывает.
many companies are reducing the impact. Did you have a story like that when researchers have announced impact on a higher level and Triage thought it's lower? But did you have a situation when the impact was increased? You thought it's a medium one, but vendor says, okay, honestly, this is a high level.
Такое было, как раз
Yes, I did have such a situation because I love to reduce, especially when I report. And the problem is that
на площадке
right now,
рейтинг
during the state of, this rating is considered and these numbers are added to you depending on which severity do you report and how it's going to be closed in the future.
любители занижать. Некоторые
But I love to reduce the severity. Some people love to increase because they think that criticality influences the success.
такое часто бывало.
That's why it happens very often with me.
Более логические баги.
Plus, I had more logical bugs. Not logical,
Этот импакт для компании пытаются.
but those which are trying to open up this impact for the company.
Я мог оценить это.
That's why sometimes I could evaluate it as the medium one, but the company said, no, it's much higher.
Круто.
It does happen.
В рамках Bug Bounty?
And was it in the framework of bug bounty? Yes.
То есть
I'm not a pen tester.
психоинженер. Я обычно
I'm engineer.
не сдаю.
And usually I don't write any reports. And in the framework of hacks, did you guess the impact? Did you have any OH between your impact
Который ревью.
and the team that was reversing?
Все мои ожидания.
Generally, all my expectations have been paid off.
У меня было не так много
I didn't have a lot of reports, but they have evaluated them on a very good level. That's why I had a very good number of points as a result.
Я думаю, да, там был
I
хороший.
think yes,
Ну, у меня
I did have a good match.
потом обсудить.
I didn't have any problems to discuss it with them.
Нет, мне
I
кажется, это круче.
discussed all these reports, and this is much cooler. I didn't have any problems like that.
Я все надеялся, что будет,
Well, I've been hoping
когда
then during hacks we would have a situation then some of the hackers would disagree with bug assessment and he would stand like that like in one office.
вместе
He'll
сядут,
stand up,
посмотрят исход.
come behind the computer, look at the source code, will discover and will understand how it should be done honestly. But yeah, it's fun.
Про то,
Tova, what about you?
тебя завысили
Завышали тебя
About
импакт?
В
импакт.
жизни, ну,
increasing your impact in life? Yes.
история с Mozilla,
I did have a story with Mozilla.
CSS в
Real XSS in some application like a local app store in Mozilla for extensions.
должно было стоить $500.
Something that should cost $500, they've increased it x6
Разработчики в коде нашли место.
because developers found a place in the code where it can bring a big impact. I wasn't hoping
Уязвимость что-то принесет.
that this vulnerability will give me something, and wow,
С матчем.
it was pretty cool. What about hacks with match? During hacks, I didn't have anything like that.
Опять же,
No, I'm saying
который ты определял, и severity.
severity that you have defined and triage severity, were they aligned,
Компания.
and that you, together with triage company,
Эти две-
you've been living soul to soul in the course of these 2 weeks.
Совпадение вот этих.
Well, it was alignment. It
Другое,
was alignment of severity. Another story is that duplicates, which we didn't mention here,
Гонка за уязвимости еще на новом.
because when everybody fight for vulnerability on one scope, there's a lot of duplicates for which they pay to the first one. But during the next event,
Дубликатное окно, когда можно будет
we will make a duplicate window when you will be able to collect all the bugs in the course of 2 weeks, and then you will see what works with what as duplicate, and then you will divide 50-50. Like 9 people submitted same vulnerability, 1,000 rubles divided by 10, 100 rubles, it's one way in a subway.
Да.
Yeah.
Интересно,
Да, собственно, про следующий хак. Сколько хотите
Да.
попасть?
And how would you, do you have a desire to go there? Yes, I do want to go there. And do it in Sochi, it's going to be much closer for me.
фотографию, которую Толя вставил в презентацию, там вот эта
I
роза.
love the picture in the presentation, Rosa hood or bright colors.
да, мы пригласили, вернее,
And we have announced that second hacks will be in Sochi. We will call approximately 30 people there, and we will have 2 interesting companies with different scopes.
всех, кого
And
мы
everybody we call, we are going to place. We will pay transportation, subway, train,
разместим всех в роза.
and we'll place everybody in Rosa Huto.
Да, и устроим.
Да, ребят, если кто-то хочет сидеть на этом месте через год,
So if somebody wants to sit on this place 1 year from now, participate in our bug bounty.
На хакс?
Yeah, go to hacks.
Знаете, вот я хотел
You know what?
еще спросить
I wanted to ask you, and I wanted to tell to the viewers
на этом нашем ивенте
that during this event, we had one-day event on the platform,
в этот день ребята там 5
and during that day, in the course of 5-6 hours, they've been breaking some scope that was brought by VK and the old one that happened during the event 2-3 weeks before. After that, we kicked out everybody away and we left hackers and employees of the company. And then we've done a demo presentation where guys have told them about some cool vulnerabilities they've discovered.
собирал
And when I've been collecting
к компаниям, да, спросил,
well, when I came to those companies and I've asked them what was so interesting they found, who should tell you about it? They said, okay, send us this and this guy, 2 guys.
хотя бы там 5. Вот, я ходил, у всех спрашивал, типа, вы нашли что-нибудь прикольное? Нашли? Вот, и все...
We wanted to have 5.
Да нет, я фигню нашел, я...
Did you find something? Everybody was saying, well, I found something stupid, I found something stupid.
Выяснили, кто.
But then we've discovered who was so...
Сделали эти презентации.
We made those presentations.
Это
We've
было
been so modest. Was it useful to you? That's my
посмотреть
question.
типа, на чужие,
To look at somebody else's bugs
которые вы сами
in the same scope you've been looking at. Was there something that, oh my God, I've seen that, but I didn't discover it, but he did discover it, and I said, okay, I became smarter. Well, I do have a story about that.
С одной стороны, было много уязвимостей.
From one side, there was a lot of vulnerabilities in Wildberry's scope, which I didn't look, so it was very curious for me to find which bugs were discovered by the guys, and I would like to point out,
Не буду называть, наверное, бакхантера.
I'm not going to call the bug hunter, but he had very cool chain reverse to XSS down to critical, but it looks very cool in the presentation when you think that cell XSS is unnecessary vulnerability that should be reported and nothing will be given, and chain down to critical, which is really critical,
Которые заплатили.
for which he received a lot of money.
У меня была просто, возвращаясь к этой истории про какие уязвимости...
Coming back to this story, which vulnerabilities were discussed during the presentation, I had a funny moment
Один бакхантер рассказал...
when one of the bug hunters said about vulnerability which I discovered and reported 1 hour before
Было интересно,
after him, duplicate. And it was interesting to hear how he did it,
как раскручивал, какие у него...
how he was promoting it, which steps did he take to analyze it and report it.
Ну, я-
Because
интересно было...
I went through the same process, it was interesting for me to compare how another person did it. Such experience exchange is a very interesting thing.
Это было, наверное,
Honestly,
делать
it was one of the motivators to make hacks in Russia so that bug hunters would be able not just to meet each other but also exchange their experience. And from this point of view, I loved event which happened next day, public
В момент, когда
moment
Яндекс и
when Yandex
ВК вышли рассказывать про свои...
and VK told about their bug bounty platforms. They also been telling about vulnerabilities publicly, openly. It was on YouTube with attack vectors, with payloads, non-classical vulnerabilities. They've been sharing this experience. This also was very cool event,
Сказали еще сколько.
and it's important that how much they paid for it.
Это иногда
They've
мотивирует
told us because sometimes it motivates some people
искать там баги.
Да, самые крупные...
to do the bug hunting. Yeah, the biggest payments they've been called like 12 million rubles, if I remember.
Да,
Yeah,
было и такое.
there was an amount like that. Did you talk about it? I don't remember.
Про свои баги, которые ты нашел.
Нет, я
About your bugs that you've discovered. No, I have not been speaking about those bugs because they were very simple ones.
Все так говорят, да ничего не нашел.
Everybody say, well, it's too modest.
баг. Показать.
The most important thing is not to show the bug itself, but the mindset. How did you come to it? Well, I've entered there. I did this and this. It's very cool, as I've told you. And for 30 people, they have their own mindset. They're searching for different bugs. They find them in something else. And this is exchanging the experience, which
Где-то в блоге написано.
people who put in the blog, they are not always sharing this. So I did like those demos. It was interesting for me to see this self-XSS as critical because it was interesting. Where did he go? What did he do? Somebody else was also in the same functionality, also seen this functionality, but they didn't do it somehow. And now they understand how and what should they do. But this is very cool to see this mindset. Also should have told you, well, it's not like these are cool bugs, but we should speak not about the bug and not about how simple it is and how did I come to this.
Вот это должно быть в демо, я считаю.
This should be the demo. This is another important part of the story because bugs, you shouldn't discuss it with anybody. You found it, and you can meet with a small team, with small group of people and talk to each other. That's pretty cool about an offline events because you will discuss some things. Where did you go? Which services did you visit? What did you see from functionality point of view? And even more, because every bug hunter has a story which they do not publicize, and you can share it only with the best friend who's going to listen to you. He will not understand it, but you break the same thing. You've seen the same services together, but one have seen it from one angle, another have seen from another angle, and sometimes they can be combined together, all these angles. For example, if you have discovered who looked at what and then find something else with all these angles together. Well, this is a question to organizer. In the next event, are you going to have team competitions? I think we're going to have something like that because there's a big demand for it. And this is a good question. We have 1.5 minutes to the end. You've been breaking as a team or alone?
Я в команде с Байком.
I was on the team.
Ну, мы, в принципе, давно так работаем, мы уже...
We work like that for quite a while, and we do have this collaboration. We understand.
Делимся находками, поэтому...
We openly share our discoveries. It helps us to find more bugs, motivate each other.
Ну, наверное, на большую команду сложно расширить.
But it's very hard to go for the bigger team because you need to have a big trust. And here's a question of payments. Some people have it. You don't want to have those arguments, but we have collaborated with him. That's why we have certain agreement and we understand how we are going to share this money. And I'm really happy that we work like that with him. That's pretty cool. It's very hard to collect a team so the team would understand you without any additional words. And, collecting 5 bug hunters which never knew each other and send them to pay as a team. Yeah, 5, too complicated. You should start 2 of you and then add more people because it's a very complicated process. At the same time, when a team exists, it's a big advantage compared to those who play alone, because you have invented something about how can you divide all the people for teams by 2. No, we are not going to do anything like that. We're not going to divide anybody. Everybody will collect their own teams themselves. So this is the end of our meeting. Thank you very much for coming. And in the end, I would like to tell you, if you want your company's be researched by such beautiful people, come to Standoff for Bug Hunting. Thank you for being with us. We had Artyom, Vladimir, Olga, and me, Anatoly. Thank you very much.